Hello.
Yeah, I cracked myself up with this stuff. How's everybody doing today? Mr. Osoko here. With another off kilter reaction of sorts or video type. Usually I have my whole little setup, my whole introduction, but um, wanted to touch bases on this hot topic here before it does die down. Um, because we're a few days removed from the Roger Jackson Psycho Stu situation. First and foremost, my prayers to Psycho Stu and his family. Hoping for a speedy recovery above all else. Of course, the incident that occurred, if you are unaware, just kind of give you some backstory. Roger Jackson, son of Rampage Jackson, famous MMA fighter. Long story short, brutally assaulted Psycho Stu this past weekend. So, like I said, we're a few days removed from that. Now, Psycho Stu, from what I read before going live, is looking at probably a lengthy recovery, but he at least is conscious. So that is good news that we're at this point. But I wanted to react to it in some capacity, just kind of share my thoughts. More specifically, though, I did see that Mark Henry made a video commenting on Psycho Stu essentially being to blame for his role in Roger Jackson's incident. So I'm a bit curious to see how he breaks it down, just off title alone. But again, I haven't watched it. Hard disagree though, right? uh, we can touch bases on exactly what led up to this point, but I'm sure Mark Henry's probably going to touch on it a bit, and I'll kind of cut in and leave my thoughts. But all in all, I just kind of wanted to get a professional wrestler, especially someone of that status. You know, Mark Henry, former world champion in WWE of all places. What his perspective was, not saying that that gives him credibility per se, but the fact that we have somebody from the prestigious company of WWE, somebody that's lived an entirely different life from the indie scene, to kind of see their thoughts and opinions. Just kind of want to pick through and see if I agree, disagree. Obviously, as a casual viewer and a fan myself, I'm gonna have my own perspective of everything. Um, Before I do press play, one more thing I do want to mention. We talked about like the realness and the fakeness of wrestling. This is one of the times where it gets really, really real when they say don't try this at home, stuff like that, or when people call the bluff, they say, oh, wrestling is fake, this and that, how do you like it? Um, like this is the epitome of like, yeah, it is a scripted product, but these are still human beings that are putting their lives on the line. Tad bit different scenario at play here, considering that he was assaulted and essentially blindsided. But you do run the risk of that real life factor when dealing with wrestling. And then also, I hate that the indie scene, and I know this is a Rikishi owned company, but I still consider this an indie promotion. It like we're finally giving light to the indie scene, but this is like in the worst way. But I'll at least say that the saving grace here is putting a light on these competitors and what they do, kind of what they go through, the price they pay, and the risk they run, at that level, as opposed to WWE. The one thing that Mark Henry maybe or maybe won't speak on is that this probably would never happen in a WWE or even in AEW for that matter, just because there's a lot of safety measures in place prior that, like, even something as simple as like Travis Scott and his like stiff punch to Cody Rhodes at a not WrestleMania, at Elimination Chamber. That, albeit was not in the script per se, for him to like actually hurt him, we weren't gonna see a scenario where Travis Scott was willing on Cody Rhodes. Let alone, even if like he would have got to the third or fourth punch, all that's getting scrapped immediately. The moment he throws a third or fourth punch that wasn't in the script, the Rock's probably stepping in. The Rock probably the last one to step in that scenario, but Cena's probably gonna like pull him aside and they'll play into it somehow. But they are going to stop that well in advance. But nonetheless, I've done enough ranting. I just wanted to give some quick thoughts and opinions about the situation before I go into the video, because I haven't talked about it. This will probably replace my NBA video for the week as well, so I do apologize, NBA fans. But hey, 2K comes out this weekend, so we're gonna get the rolling soon. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and get it started with what Mark Henry thinks about the situation.
Well, I mean, I say that's what happens when people are not experienced to our business. And you have to be fully educated, you got to be fully trained. And people think that that's something that's not prevalent. But like when I came into wrestling in 95, 96, I had a lot of the same issues. I didn't like the ribbing. I didn't like the joking. Um, and anybody that talked to me that I didn't think was worthy of having that kind of aggressive conversation, they got that work.
So I do remember Mark Henry going on an interview saying this once before about like how he was a high head and like certain ribs, certain backstage. I think it was on Undertaker's podcast. He wasn't going for it. Mark Henry obviously has a track record of obviously being the world's strongest man. That's his whole gimmick. But you know, of course, not everybody's going to be in that mindset. Going into it. But we live in a day of age where, again, I mentioned this earlier in the video. Wrestling is still wrestling. It's professional wrestling. Sports entertainment is still what it is, right? And there is a difference between shoots and works. Shoot being stuff that's essentially off script, not planned. Stuff like this happens in shoot scenarios, and then work stuff that's planned out, etc., etc. Psycho Stu was working over Raja Jackson because he assumed he was a professional wrestler. He was in that setting. Come to find out, he was not. That was news to him. He immediately apologized and attempted to rectify the situation. So, you know, both ends, of course, probably went into it blinded because they're not aware of how things work. Meaning that Psycho Stu wasn't aware that he wasn't a wrestler. Roger Jackson wasn't aware that this was a work. Like, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't excuse his actions. And I don't know if that's the point he's about to make, but I mean, Mark, we got to kind of dial that down a little bit. Let's be real.
And, I don't know the full story, but I do know what I saw. And it looked like he wasn't smart to what was going on. And the dude that was messing with him bit off more than he can chew. And is you got to be careful, one, who you mess with, and two, like, what kind of example are you as a veteran for inciting a ride with a kid?
Bit off more than he could chew is crazy. Like, yeah, but bro, I don't know. Like, there was so much time in between the smashing of the can and the incident. Bit off more than he could chew. I could understand if Roger Jackson wham right there in that moment after the can got smashed. No. Premeditated to the finest extent. He waited until the end of the night to attack. What? Bit off more than he could chew, brother.
You
Oh
know,
my goodness.
and I mean, he's not 12 or nothing, but he's still significantly younger. And you want to make sure that everybody knows what we're doing. Now that there's shows out there, um, like Unreal, where people see how educated and well taught and experienced you have to be at the highest levels of pro wrestling. Um, you see why it's important to have that training like they do at NXT,
Yeah.
because you don't ever want a situation where somebody brand new out the box is put in that kind of situation.
How hard is it coming in, as an
Yeah, I mean, it is important to be trained on that stuff and have that experience. Obviously, both of them didn't. I mean, to an extent. I mean, like Psycho Stu was on a much smaller scale of wrestler in a sense of like status and everything compared to Mark Henry, but it's also an independent show. It's an indie show. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, like, there is that recklessness, in my opinion. Like, I'm not saying that he was right to smash the can over his head by any means. It's not condoning that, but I think comparing the two is a little bit different because, like, the training that you get from WWE and the scenarios that you're in is completely different. Like, I just can't shift the blame on Psycho Stu.
outsider, so to say, that doesn't have experience to come in there and expect to know, to properly know what was going on then?
It's very hard to not know what your role is, and the best of it is there was no developmental system when I came in, so I was a lot like him. But the system today, why you don't hear that very much, is people go to wrestling schools, and the first thing they get taught is go in there and be quiet, don't say nothing unless somebody says something to you,
Yeah.
and respect the people that's older than you and that's been in the system longer than you. And whether or not he got that conversation from somebody, I don't know. But also, the hazing days, the corny bullshit days are over with. Every one of these journeyman guys that get drunk before the show and sit around and talk crap to all the younger kids and tell them how the old days were, that's over with, because the guys.
True. We are in a different era, or at least in WWE in that mainstream sense, a different era. Indies, I can't speak on that. But what I will say is that, like, he's mentioning he didn't have a developmental system when he came up. Fair, but you're also comparing yourself to Roger Jackson. If I'm picking up on what he's putting down, he's saying that he would, like, he's in that same scenario. He's in that same mindset as a Roger Jackson, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. So to bring up the developmental system, it wasn't in place for you. It's also not in place for him. Like, I don't believe Roger Jackson's gotten any training in regards to how to maneuver with professional wrestlers. He would have very well sold immediately with the can, unless he just didn't know it was going to happen. But either way, it would have not turned into what this is. So I can't. I get what he's trying to say. Like, yeah, we don't have developmental in place, or didn't have developmental in place when he was coming up. But Roger Jackson doesn't have that same accent either because he's not a professional wrestler. Um, so I don't know if that strengthens his point or not, but it definitely is a bit weird to mention the developmental system in the context of this situation because developmental or not, it went well beyond anything professional wrestling related. Like well beyond. It was like there was no reason for him to do what he did.
That's coming in are former MMA guys or college students like my son, um, people
Shout out,
that's
Jacob.
in entertainment and have other walks of life. And you can't act like, corny bullshit to these guys and girls.
How bad a look is this for the sport? Just everybody seeing this, and I believe the school is a WWE ID program.
It's not a bad look. It's not that's not the ID program. First of all, the ID program is so well polished and so well tempered that you would never have that problem in their system.
That's what I
Secondly,
said.
it's not a
So yeah, it is more of an. I think the rumor was that it was an ID thing. I think it's because of Rikishi being affiliated with. I have no confirmation if it is or isn't, but just based on what he said, like yeah, this isn't a WWE thing because WWE wouldn't let it get to this point, but that's the status that comes with it. But like even if you look at records, like go back and watch like wrestlers being blindsided by fans or being attacked or something, bro. They wrapped it up immediately. No, I know the scenario is different because he was planned to run in, Roger was, but yeah, that still wouldn't have happened at all, bro.
bad look for pro wrestling. It's a bad look the uh, for the company that he performed at, and it's a bad look for him, and it's a worse look for the guy that got beat up, because now we know you can't fight, and
That is the whoa. That is wow, Mark. That is we know you can't fight. Let him finish his point.
back in the old days, if you lost a fight, you lost your job. So those, maybe that.
But he got knocked out. He got scooped up, essentially blindly scooped up. Like he snuck scooped him to an extent. He turns around, scoops him immediately, slams him down. He's gone. Talking about he can't fight. We know you can't fight. I know not everybody that has served in the military is a fighter or can fight, but he is a veteran. So let's bring it back a little bit there. Also, bro, like, what was he supposed to do? What do you mean he can't fight? If the day somebody sneaks me and I am knocked unconscious and I wake up to a barrage of messages and phone calls saying, "Oh man, you went outside, you can't fight." Well, what? I didn't even know it was fighting. What do you mean, bro? What? No, that was wild, Mark.
Those days
That's
are
the first
over
hard
too.
disagree.
But in the modern sense, just to correct you, that doesn't supposed to happen, and it shouldn't ever happen. On both sides, have enough respect for the business. Hey, this dude is acting up. I'm gonna give him a pass today, but you need to get him in order, because if I wanted to take his head off, I could. And then the older guys that sit around drinking at the building before the game, before the show, you get rid of every one of those guys that's like that. The journeyman drug addicts, alcoholics, want to be tough guys, get rid of them. They don't fit the mold for the business anymore. I would never hire them at All Caribbean. If a guy showed up to my show drunk or was sitting outside in the parking lot drinking before the show, he would never work for me.
In your mind, the incident that
Like
happened
Shaq right there.
backstage that set this up is Psycho Stu, more to blame for this even happening once they got in the ring?
If indeed what I saw was what I saw, which is people before the show, during the daytime, drinking and intoxicated or partially intoxicated, regardless, and you're bust a bottle over a guy's head, and talk trash like that guy was not going to do nothing, yeah, you're at fault. Because if he
I just needed him to say it. I actually can't watch the rest of this. There's not much left, but Mark, you lost me on that one. I ain't gonna lie to you. Because what do you mean? He said, okay. I hope he understood the question. He asked, who was he more at fault? In one way or another, you just said yes, because the question was he more at fault? That's insane, Mark. Oh yeah, this is a great comment. Incredible how some people in our society choose to view a 25-year-old kid. Race is clouding this man's judgment. I don't know if it's a race thing. I honestly think it's a professional wrestler wanting to be different for the sake of being different. Mark Henry's had some bad takes in general. Like, this is not his first bad take. So I wouldn't call it a race thing, but I could be wrong, of course. He did take accountability and apologize long before Raj did what he did. Exactly. No excuse. This is a terrible take, ill take from Mark Henry, I will say, bro. But yeah, I just want to get my thoughts and opinions on that. Let me know what y'all think in the comments down below about the scenario. Do you think that Psycho Stu was more in the wrong than Raja Jackson was about the entire scenario? Essentially, do you agree with Mark Henry? But yeah, nonetheless, again, speedy recovery to Psycho Stu. Raja Jackson, you deserve to be in prison right now, but that's neither here nor there. I am just a guy commenting on the video. Yeah, that'll do it for me today. Thank you all so much. No plug for me, like usual, of course. Just make sure to like the video. I would love that. But I hope you all have an amazing day. Don't let anyone discourage you from greatness. And we are so out.